Okay, so it's 2:45, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today's class is on using blogs for classroom projects and how you can use those to help incorporate writing across the curriculum. I've got some information that I gleaned from other people's presentations at OETC when I started blogging a few years ago, so that's what their names are on down there at the bottom. I don't even remember who they are at this point. So basically, we're going to talk about blogs. A blog is a website that allows students to post information online, to do online writing assignments, research projects. It's short for a weblog, and honestly, and right now in 2020, most websites that most people go to every day are, in fact, blogs. They're very prevalent across the internet, and really, you probably already know that most of the time that you're reading something online, it's from a blogging site. So we have the ability to blog here at National Trail and to post content and use the same kind of venue for writing for our students in any class that we use. So they're tools, just like any other tools that can be used and misused. They provide interactivity, publishing, student feedback, a different way to write than maybe students are used to, but probably more like what they might be doing when they leave school. So it's a really good project anymore. It's important to note that I do not delete anything ever from anyone's blog. The only way it'll ever go is if you delete it. And I had a case in point here that I wanted to bring up. Oh, really? And now it won't let me open what I'm trying to go to because it doesn't have the right. No, it does. I know it does. I just use it. Wow, that's crazy. I can't pause, can I? Somehow my computer just got the same thing that Securely's doing that, and I somehow don't have the right Securely. I have to go and do this right now because if I don't, it's going to mess up a whole bunch of stuff. I need to make sure I've got the right filter. Save link as. Let's see, a broken file. That is weird. Well, I can just go ahead and import it. I'm not sure why it's doing that because I know I've got the right certificates. It's right there, 2034 certificate. So basically, there's something broken with Securely right now. That's great, fantastic. Always good to have those things happen right in the middle of a presentation, isn't it? Let's see if I can go back and click on that link and see if maybe it'll work this time. Let's see. Nope, it is not. Let's see if Google's working for me. There we go there. Huh, I am getting to Google. It's really weird. Well, what I was trying to show you is that if I Googled one of the motherboards that my students did a project on, it ends up being one of the top 5 things that comes on to Google, and that was written 2 years ago. Ones that are written just today aren't going to show up on a Google search engine, but they certainly can in the weeks or months ahead. So my point that I was trying to show you with that link is that they're there forever. I tell my kids that on our blog that I'm not going to delete anything they write, and they can use them for college projects, portfolios, whatever later if they decide to go into the computer genre and use that as supporting references for stuff they're doing. So, on a student blog, people can like it, unlike it, comment on it, view it, and it's a totally different way than having people just write a paper to write, and you can have it work very much the same as any other writing project, but kids get a little bit more excited about a blog, in my class anyway, than they do about writing a paper, even though many of the same projects are many of the same parts are there. So anytime we're doing a blog, blogs aren't, like it says here, they're not always true. Just like everything on the internet, people need to cross-check references. The tips for teachers there that I've got on here is important. Make sure that, and it's not by default on our blog, not using their last names. It just has their first name as the blogger, and they can actually change that to something else if they prefer to have be known as a handle or something. Assume that things are going to be read, because they may or may not be. You don't know who's going to read them on the internet, but they're totally open to the internet, so anyone, including parents, can read it, and that's a great thing that you can have if they do good blogs to have parents be able to refer to. Tips for students, and they're on here so that if you start blogging, you remember to go over these things with your students. They shouldn't be posting their last name, their full name, addresses, phone numbers, any of that kind of stuff on a blog, because it's not just for National Trail. A true blog is open to everyone. So it's not like a journal on Moodle that only kids in your class are going to read. It's open across the internet through search engines, so they need to stay anonymous on those things. If someone comments, they really shouldn't comment back. They shouldn't try to meet anybody online. It's not an online dating site. And I'll be honest, right now our blog, although anyone can read it, I have registration prevented, so nobody from outside the trail can get on and post comments on there. So, as far as our blog, it's at blog.nationaltrail.us. We're going to go to a site on there to kind of use as a temporary one. Basically, if you go to blog.nationaltrail.us, the intent there, because it's a multi-site blog, is that every classroom can have their own blog site. You can't log in here. You have to click on your own site that you would be the administrator of, and you would have your students in, and nobody can log in to that one unless you allow them to. Other students from Trail would be able to basically go there and comment, but that's the extent of it. They won't be able to edit or do anything there. So from that blog.nationaltrail.us, you need to say, hey, I'd like to have a 9th grade blogging class. I'll make it for you. I'll make the administrator, do the administrator on it. And then from there on, totally your site to do whatever you want to it. This is kind of the way it looks right now. And once you get on there, you'll be able to log in. That's just point to the login button. It's different on every one of these because they all look different. However you want yours to look. And then from there on, students can just go and make their posts, and they just click post once you make them a author on your site. And then they can click posts and then just create posts. I wanted to point out some of the administration things that I do before we get into the nitty-gritty on how to do how to use WordPress, which is where our blog site is, and how to do it. I have everything just like most people do, starting at Moodle. So for instance, this is my motherboard blog post here. It says the assignment is, and I will tell you that the way I use blogs in my class. We do presentation research projects in every section of the course, whether it's on, in this case I have one there on motherboards and one there on CPUs. We do a research project. We do obviously normal classroom lectures and notes first, then a research project, and then we do after the research project and after everyone's presented, then they do a blog post that's really the intent there is for them to kind of wrap up their knowledge of that particular subject for me so that I know they understand, because when they're writing about something, it's kind of an enclosed thing that lets me in one shot see do they understand what this subject was about, kind of thing. So in every section at the end, the pre-summative assessment, for every section is a blog post. So this is an example of the one for chapter 4. This assignment is to review one of the motherboards you chose for your motherboard project. They had to do 3 on the presentation. It is written with the voice of a blogger, and we talk about what that is. In this case, they're supposed to be writing with the voice of someone who has actually bought that motherboard, used that motherboard, reviewed it, and they're saying like whether they think you, as the reader on this blog, should buy it or not. So it says it's written with the voice of a blogger. You should write it as if you installed, used, and tested the motherboard. And I have some links to examples there. Keep in mind your voice. You're writing as if you're working for a blog like Tom's Hardware, which is one we use in our class. You are a reviewer. Use pictures, links, write personal reflections as if you actually tested it. But these should be based on your research on the motherboard. You can't just make up stuff, obviously. You may be recommending or not recommending the board you're reviewing, but whatever position you take, it should be backed up with some resources, some links, something that's actually factual. Be creative. This is not on Moodle. It's a blog site. It's completely open to the web and will be read. There should be a B in there. So the assignments in Moodle, the links in Moodle, and it says at the bottom of your post, please include the following line. Note this review is part of a classroom project. I really want them to have it on there so that if someone else is actually looking at buying that motherboard, that when they read it, they don't go, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to get that based on a student that's 15 years old and never actually touched that motherboard. So they have to put note this review is part of a classroom project for that sort of a thing. I kind of have some general things. It shouldn't be too long. It should include relatively good sized graphics. You should have an opinion. Okay. Now, that itself could be a lot of reading on your part. And if you're not an English teacher, you may say, I don't have time to do this because I would have to read all these. Well, that's true. You should read them. But there's other ways to get feedback on this too. And I do that on Moodle by using a forum. So along with them having to submit where their link is, they also have to make a forum post. And this is an example of what the forum post looks like in Moodle. It says, please post your blog with a link. Other classmates will give you appropriate feedback based on the following things. So every other student in the class has to read other people's forums and score them. They give them a grade, and it's an 8-point rubric right here. And they're yes and no. It's either they get the point or they don't. Is the blog categorized correctly? I'll show you what that means. Is the title descriptive? Does it make sense? Those should be 2 automatic points. Is the blog informative? That's kind of an opinion, right? If a student reads that and doesn't feel like they learned anything, it may or may not be informative. I'm going to check this real fast just in case it's somebody saying the volume doesn't work that's on line. Nope. Okay. Are the graphics relevant and correctly posted? In other words, can they see them? Like ginormous, is there too much white space? We talked about that in class. Do you have the right and consistent voice? The right voice means, like I said up here, the voice of someone who's blogging. That's what the voice is on this particular assignment. And is it consistent? Do you stay in that realm? And in English, you talk about voices. So did you cite your sources? They have to have them cited. I don't say it has to be MLA. They do have to say, they have to have links to where they got some kind of information. I'll show you that too. Did you post it as a student project? In other words, did you remember that line? And are there distracting grammatical errors? So when they're reading each other's posts, I'm not saying you're an English teacher. I'm not saying that you have to go and grade every misspelling, every miscapitalization. But in general, when you read it, did it distract you? Did those errors distract you? And I will tell you that almost no one got 8 points because that's the thing that almost everyone takes away a point from their classmates. And I'll show you what those feedbacks look like. I'm going to do a screen capture so we don't get any actual student names on the screen, but you'll kind of see what that looks like. So on that part of it, when they post it to the forum, they just everyone starts a new discussion, which has the name of their discussion, which should be the topic. These people who put CPU didn't really do it right. And then everyone else goes in and rates them. All they have to do with their discussion is put a link to their blog posts so everybody else can click on that to read their blog. And at the end, they rate them between 0 and 8 points. And then, for instance, this person that did this one, his classmates, he's got a score of 5. It's not a summative grade. It is a formative grade. It does go in the grade book. I rate him as well. That's my rating right there. And then they can also post feedback to them so that they fix them. And my point to my students is, hey, this person said your blog's not categorized. He got an email when he posted this. And as soon as he got the email, why didn't you just fix that so that the next person would give you a high rating? Because it shouldn't stay at 5. It should keep going up. Because if he fixed that, this person said okay. Very detailed with the facts, but he didn't give a very good score. Looking good, man. That's not a very relevant feedback. But anyways, you get the idea. Everyone else will then give feedback. I told them it doesn't have to be big, but you have to score them. And if there's something wrong, you should point out that thing that's wrong. So that's kind of how I use them in the class. And I wanted to point this out as well because many teachers don't realize they can let students score other students in Moodle. It's really easy to do. At any given assignment in Moodle, right now you as a teacher are the only one that can grade it. But that is not a static thing. All you have to do is go to that assignment where you normally hit edit settings. Right underneath there, you click on locally assign roles. And when you click on there, you get the list of roles that you can assign. One of the roles that all teachers can assign is a non-editing teacher. And when you click on that, you can add you'll see all the students in your class. All mine are over here as non-editing teachers in this assignment already. But you can add all selective students from here to here, and now the students can grade them. That's now a gradable thing by other students. Now, in this one, everyone gets to grade. If you did this in some other assignment where there's only one grade, it could get confusing, right? But you could put one person in charge of each group. If you grouped up people and say, hey, you're in charge of scoring a grade for this other group. Maybe groups are grading each other. This group is giving feedback to that group. You could put one person from each one that's now a non-editing teacher on another group's grade, and you can have them grade each other. And I just wanted to point that out because I've had that question come up before. Is there any way to students do peer grading in Moodle? And the answer is yes. Forums are the best one though. That means every single person on this list gets to grade them, and it averages the grades. Which in general, I've always seen when I've done that the average of the grades the student, there's always somebody giving them a perfect score that didn't read it. There's always someone who scores a little low. But the average grade is almost always exactly, you saw that on the last one. My grade was exactly the same as the class average. Okay, so I want to go into the blog to kind of show you how the blog itself works. I've talked about how I link things to Moodle and how I make Moodle assignments, and I've talked a little bit about how I use blogs. It's a culminating project. It's still a formative grade because the grading is done by other students. But it's a nice one to do prior to the formative assessment in my class. And so I've got this one that I called blog test track that's on there, that any teacher that wants to just, hey, I just want to play with it, see what a blog's like, I can add them as an author on the blog test track and let you just play with it. If you want to do more than play with it, hey, I want a blog for 9th grade English, all I have to do is shoot me an email, I'll make you one, from there on it's yours, I'll make you the administrator on it to add students as you see fit, and to modify it as you see fit. This does not look like my blog at all. This is a totally different theme, and I've got a ton of different themes loaded. You can pick your own theme, you can make it look the way you want to, you can name it whatever you want to. It's all up to you. So once you get there and you get into your blog, then you'll have the ability to see a number of administrative things on the side that we're going to go ahead and go through how to do those things. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our blog. So if I go to blog.nationaltrail.us, it actually brings us to the server, which is really wordpress.nationaltrail.k12.oh.us, WordPress is the name of the software that's loaded that we blog on. It's easier just to tell the kids blog.nationaltrail.us. So right now, the only blog sites are the one that my class uses and this test track. But if you do one, basically I'm going to make a thumbnail here. I'll start shrinking these down so they fit on the page better. And give any class teacher that wants to cite one. All students in National Trail are already loaded on the Blogspot site, so it's really easy for you to add any student you want to it. I'm going to kind of give you a tour of our hardware site, and then we're going to go in the other one. So first I'm going to click on this one and just kind of show you. This is the particular theme that I selected for what I'm calling NT Tech. That's what the name of our blog site is. And all my students blog on this site. This theme I chose can be modified a bunch of different ways. And the way blogs always work is the last one done is the one on top. Okay, this is the most current. The most current is always on top. And as soon as one of my other students posts it, this will be pushed farther down. Okay. In a blog, you can create categories. So I have all these categories that blog posts go under: CPU reviews, EdTech Teach, hard drive reviews, IT support, memory reviews, motherboard reviews, IT reviews, operating system reviews, staff tech reviews, tech administration. Uncategorized means they didn't categorize it, and that's one of those things I could point for. And video card reviews. So as they do each section of the course, they do stuff, and I use this personally for professional real articles that I have as well. So if my last one hasn't been for a while, but if I go to EdTech Teach, I go and I did one on Google Chromebook enrollment and how to enroll Chromebooks into a Google environment. And honestly, I did that when I learned how to do it so that I wouldn't forget. And I know there's someplace I can go, hey, I know where somebody wrote a review on how to do that. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to the top. So I'm going to go to the whole thing. My students are currently in the CPU section. So if I just wanted to see all the CPU reviews, I could just click CPU reviews there. Or over here, if I click CPU reviews, then now it looks the same to us right now. But if I scroll down, as I'm going down through here, all I'm going to see is CPU reviews. I'm not going to see anything else, okay? And when my kids gave me that link, they gave me this link, and if I click on that, now the only thing I'm seeing is this one. And now that I'm looking at just this one, you can see there's some other stuff down at the bottom that I can add. Hey, I can post a comment that this student can see about it. I can add an email and a name in there. It doesn't get published and actually doesn't go anywhere right now. Because I don't have it automatically logging those things. But anyone from the internet, even if they're not logged in, can post a comment. I do have a spam filter that automatically gets rid of anything that's inappropriate, and I have not had anything inappropriate get through yet. So this one is a review that he wrote, a technical review of the AMD Ryzen 9 3950X processor, and there's a picture of the processor. And so he's writing what the technical specs are. He's giving me information down here, and he wrote this, but he got a 5. And the reason he got a 5 is I don't see any of the links to back up it. So those on that rubric, those things are missing. And quite honestly, he's supposed to be giving, this is a list of facts, but where's his big list of other information that he gave us through there? And boy, I tell you what, one of my this is one of my, I think this is the one of my better reviews. This student almost always wrote as if he actually did it. If we read his, I purchased the Threadripper 2950X to put into my MAG X9 motherboard that I previously reviewed on this website. One of the best processors that would fit in the board, and this one certainly hasn't disappointed. If you read through his thing, he has the best voice. He
when I read this, I actually think he did it. I think he actually bought the processor, used the processor, tested the processor, extremely good, and I like using his in particular. He uses a lot of imagination when he writes. The worst thing is he was always late and his projects, but his projects were always extremely good. You can see this is all I wanted. Some references with links, so if someone was like, oh, where'd you get that information? I can go right there, and there's the site on that particular processor. If I want to read his reference from Tech Radar, and go right there, there's a review for it. An excellent blog post for what our blogging is. In my particular class, has the specifics and writes like he got it, has reviews from other websites in there, has a final thought, has references, and put this as part of the classroom project. Oh, that is just one of those ones that when I read Collins, every single time I was happy. Made me feel like I don't know, makes you feel like it's a success when you read really good student stuff that's posted on the blog, and his comes up on, and that's what I was going to show you when I do the review on there. When I did the Google search, it came right up on the top of the Google searches as a highly relevant search. Anyway, so that's what we use it for. I use it for personal writing, for real world stuff. I use it for student projects. All my students' projects, if we went back in time, you can see it says archives. I can go all the way back to February 2014, been blogging and using this, and they're still there from 6 years ago, which my prior students are always like, hey, that was a really cool project, I really like doing that, and it's kind of expanded and expanded as we've gone. But the reason that's the archives are like that is because obviously if I was just on the site, you wouldn't want to be able to go down 14 years. That's why it has this older post thing back there. And you can see down here at the bottom, hey, here's some recent posts that were on the website. Anyway, so that's our blog. So how do we use it? How do we do it? I'm going to go ahead and go to this one because I really don't want to mess with that one. So when you go here, this is just one theme. I can go down here and see login, or I'm going to go ahead and log in to this one. Now, I'm a site administrator, so I see a lot more buttons over here than a typical student sees when they log on and go to the dashboard. Because of that, it looks a little busier than it actually will be for you. But here's some things that you can see as a teacher. First of all, right here is the posts. When you have a lot of students with posts, they'll all show up in here. You know what, I'm going to go, oh, I didn't mean to close that. Let's see if I can get that to open here and show you posts. Okay, so now this shows all the posts that everyone's done in the class. It shows what the author's name, and that's what it shows up. Like I said, it always shows up first name. Students can't modify that. Here's the title of it. And you can see that some of them are categorized, some of them are not categorized, and whether they have actually been posted yet or not. So this one's currently being edited on. This one's still in draft mode. What it means when they're in draft mode, students can start on a blog post, and it will never show up on the internet until they publish. So they can edit it for 2 weeks if you give them 2 weeks. They can come back, they can work on it, they can perfect it, and then when they're done, they hit publish. Only then is it seen on the internet. This is also where you can go and delete posts. If you've got one that's got personal information on it, or a student that's left, or you just want to clean house, you can delete those posts if you want to. I could literally go up here and click all and say bulk actions, and I could trash them all. I'm not going to do that, obviously. I could trash them all if I wanted to. I could look at ones that are just CPU reviews. Undo that. So now I'm just looking at CPU. Oh, I got to hit the filter button, sorry. So now I'm just looking at the ones that fall into that category. I can just look at staff reviews if I want to, the ones that mostly I have written. and some that somebody put in the wrong category. Anyway, so that's what the posts tab is, to let you see those, see who wrote them, see when they modified them last, see if they're published. You can see that these all say published on the side. And because there's nothing really on here, there's not much to see right there. When students come in, if they go to edit, they just click add new, and they're just in a website editor to go, and they can add video, they can add sound, they can add pictures. They have this as the stock editor, which looks very much like any other web editor, and most students are probably comfortable with this one. However, if they've ever used Weebly, and Weebly is an editor that Mr. Wassam used to use in class projects in his class, if they've ever used that, then they may be more comfortable with a different editor called Elementor. And if I click on that, this becomes a totally different editor now, that I now drag different kinds of things. You can see all these icons over here. And I drag them into my area. So I want to add a button. So I click a button over here, and now I've got a button. And I can click on the button to make it do something. This is a button. And that button then can have things that happen by right-clicking here, and I can make it do stuff when I do the button. It's just a different editor. I'm not going to spend too much time with it. I just wanted you to know that that's available. If you want to play with any of these things, it doesn't hurt anything, because you know what? The worst thing that happens is later you go, oh my gosh, that's not what I wanted. And you save draft. I'm going to hit save draft and get out of this. And go back over here to posts. And like I said, anytime now, if I'm like, oh, I didn't want that, I can always hit trash, and there it goes, it's gone. It's no big deal. So you can add those. Okay, so those are add, delete, and play with those. So those are posts. You can add media to the library. So can students if you make them an author. And I guess you should go down there here all the way to users first. The one thing that I don't do is add your students into your class. That's something you have to do on your own. And it may be something I can figure out an easy way to get a class list, but let's say you want somebody to be in your class. All you do is click add new. You can start adding their name. So I can say Harkwriter, and she's not a student. Why would I do that? Let me just say the word Smith, and then I'm going to every single Smith student in the class, and so I'm going to add Mr. Smith. And now, I just click the name, the role. You don't want to be subscriber, because if they're a subscriber, all they can do is read. You're going to add them as an author if you want them to be able to write on your WordPress site. So you can add them as an author. And I click add the user without sending an email that requires a confirmation. In other words, if you click that, and I hit add new user, they're just a user. They're on there. If I click users and go look here, there's Mr. Smith right there. He's an author. He's allowed to get in and do stuff right now. If he clicks on here and says he wants to do something, he is in the site, and it's the same username and passwords that students use for everything else on here. So he's an author in the site right now. Now I wanted to point that out so you would know how to add students into your site. The other thing that you probably will want to play with on your own site is this templates. If I click on templates, this is where I can choose what I want my theme to look, or what I want my site to look like. So I can click down here to saved templates, and it will list every single well, I'm sorry, it's down here at appearance. I'm silly. So I'm talking about themes, not template. So I'm down here at appearance. These are all the different possible, you can see the one I use right there, different themes available to you to make your class. So if you're like, oh, this is what I want it to look like, I can hit live preview to see what this site would look like if it was with this. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted for this site. So I'm gonna hit activate and publish. Now that's what this one looks like. And from now on, if I were to go and look at this, that's what I see on the blog test track, okay? And here's the first blog post, and the blog post would go down there. Here's our date stuff, and if we added categories, we'd have categories over there. Look, I can change the color. If I want a slightly different color for mine, boy, that's kind of ugly, but if I hit it and I publish, now that's what it looks like as well. Okay, so those are the templates. That's it for what I wanted to show you. Really, I'm on the dashboard for the blog test track. I'm going to be able to edit posts. I'm going to be able to add users, and I want to be able to change my appearance. After that, most of it, if I go and visit site, because it looks different now, that's kind of a strong yellow, this is what it looks like. And if you ask for a site, you can play with it all you want. You can't hurt it. The worst thing that would ever happen is if you go, I've totally messed it up, I don't know how to get it back to it, and just delete it and make another one, which you saw took about 10 seconds to do. So, that's kind of how to get started with it. Again, if you're on it, you just go up here if you're logged in, and you go to dashboard. If you're not logged in, I'm going to go ahead and log out. If you're not logged in, I'm going to go to blog, nationaltrail.us, and I click on here and I go to the site. All I have to do is click login. Right now, I've got no menu up top. I hit login, log into my site. It automatically takes me to the dashboard. If I want to visit the site, I go right there and hit visit site. And now I'm back here. I've still got that menu up here. And if I want to go to do a post, that's how I do it. I go to the dashboard and do it. So I've got no posts up here yet. I go to the dashboard. I can make a post by hitting new, add new, and then I'm just in that editor again, and I can make a WordPress post. This button right here lets me see distraction-free typing. It just takes away all the junk on the side, so it's just in the editor. Well, let me go through the other side over here. So if I want to preview the post, that's all this does. It opens up a preview of what does it look like. There isn't anything because I haven't typed a single thing. I can save the draft. This is where I can publish it right here. I can also hide it even after it's published if I have to work on it again. I can set the format of it. Right now, there's no category other than new blogs, but I can make new categories if you've got, if you're reading Catcher in the Rye and you want to make everybody blog on Catcher in the Rye, you could go and set new category. There we go. So now that's a category. So they have to pick it so that then you can click on that. You know that they're all going to go there. Let's see. You can tag things so that when you search for them, they are found. That's more of a Google thing so that they get found by Google. And then you can make some different templates down there. I don't use templates, quite honestly, when I'm posting. I just have the kids do this. This is the title. Okay, and if I wanted to preview, I'd hit preview, and now, because I just did it, oh look, there right there, my blogger, this is where you start blogging. I already clicked on the Catcher in the Rye post. When I'm done, right there was a preview. If I was at that site, it doesn't show up until I publish it, and then once I publish it, then it's there. And it starts showing up. So that's really it. Blogging is simple to get started with, but it's really a nice project for a lot of students because it lets them write in a different way. It's online, it's accessible, they can share it with their friends. If you find something that students are passionate about, then you can really get some students involved with their blog. You can use it for any kind of an online writing assignment. If anybody's got any questions, please just let me know. And if you want me to set up your blog site, all you have to do is shoot me an email. I need to know what you want it to be called. Do you want it to be called 9th grade English? Do you want it to be called Compositions with Mrs. Wolf? Do you want it to be called The Catcher in the Rye Strikes Back? Whatever you want it to be, I can make that happen, and I can get it started for you. And obviously I'm here to help if you have any questions on how to get going in blogging. Once your students start doing it, after they've done the very first blog, it is no problem after that. And if you need any resources for your students, in my class, one of my sections, and I use blogging for E-Day projects as well. They're great E-Day projects. But when I go to my hardware class, one of the side sections is called blogging, and up top, I have the guidelines, and I have a video on how to do it. So this is kind of explains what a blog is, and then I also have a video on, hey, here's how you log on, here's how you use the editor, kind of thing, to get them started, so that on their first blog, they stumble a little bit, but after that, most of the time, they can get it done, and it's an easy way for them to write. Some of them oversimplify, like you saw that one that we just looked at, and some of them really, really do an excellent job with them, and it's really fun to read some of their online writing assignments. Okay, well, that's all I got for blogging today. If anybody's got any questions, please let me know.